This is 20-year-old Connor Fitzpatrick signing documents for a package he doesn't remember ordering. At this exact moment, he realizes it was all a setup to lure him away from his computer. As two FBI agents arrest him, his distressed mother steps outside, trying to understand what is going on as four more agents swarm the house. Little does she know, her son is one of the FBI's most wanted, and the only thing on their mind now is getting to Connor's computer with it still on. See, Connor had a secret he had been keeping from his mom. He operated the world's most popular hacking forum dedicated to trading stolen data under the online handle Pom Pom Purin. Despite the
dare you take this innocent little mascot and turn him into evil?
Cute avatar, Connor was a feared yet well-respected hacker. His forum was used to trade billions of stolen records from many of the world's largest companies. Later that day, a news truck captured this footage of FBI agents taking bags of evidence away in their black SUVs from Connor's family home in Peekskill, New York. I don't think these agents were prepared to uncover anything more than a few stolen databases on his computers. Yet, back in the lab, upon examining them, they found videos and photos so dark and disgusting that their discovery would later drive Connor
to
try anything to escape prosecution. I don't think Connor ever had a single real-life friend. Post-arrest, a classmate described him as, quote, a nice kid who was quiet and reserved and pretty smart, adding he was in a few AP classes. He also recalls a time when Connor disappeared from school for 2 months and then returned acting as if nothing happened. Quote, you could tell he had some sort of stuff going on. Little did he know, that stuff was raid forms. Founded in 2015 by Diogo Coelho, then going under the handle Omnipotent, this forum was dedicated to organizing the harassment of live streamers. They called...
I remember this actually. I just suddenly remembered that I remember reading about this in an article on the news.
This
Holy!
Pour it on the keyboard.
This was so long ago.
Okay, yeah, that should be good. Oh my god. Yeah. Cannot fart. Yeah, it's good, it's good.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Tricking and pressuring kids into destroying their things.
So right there?
Yeah, so just keep on pouring until I say stop. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Or embarrassing.
Yeah, I remember this. This is from like 2010, 12. Actually, no, it was like 2013. Yeah, I remember I was playing Osu.
Themselves for a couple of laughs.
More needs to be covered.
Not the mustard!
As you can tell, things on raid forums had quickly taken a dark turn. At first, there was just users sharing guides on how to dox live streamers to get their personal information, which eventually led to Ice Poseidon getting swatted on a plane, but anyway.
Yeah, this was a massive deal.
It pretty quickly also transformed into sharing malware, rats designed to take over a live streamer's computer. So, you know, they could control their computer and do weird stuff with it. Then people were writing custom malware, little tools that would spam shocking content, repeatedly launched the Meatspin website over and over again. And seeing the rising popularity of this stuff, and also I think having a bit of a personal interest, Diogo decided to better cater the forum to this audience. And by 2016, the website was all about hacking. Out of these new categories, one gained immense popularity, the leaks section. And the leaks section was actually like their pre-update. It was the place to find old data dumps, download them, search through people's outdated information, and poke fun at it. Many big companies have suffered data breaches which have exposed, well, probably your personal information as well, but millions of people's information. Emails, passwords, names, addresses, the list goes...
This is why you should always change your passwords and shit all the time. Yeah, it's gonna be an ad.
On. And a lot of live streamers, well, that's how they got doxxed. But within 4 years, the number of users on raid forums had grown to over 500,000, and more hackers and criminal groups were joining the forum specifically to use it as a marketplace to buy and sell new data dumps. If you know anything about ransomware, when a company doesn't pay up, often groups will leak their data. And raid forums is where many of these groups went to post it for other hackers to acquire and later use to crack accounts, launch phishing campaigns, steal identities. I mean, the list goes on and on. And among them was one user so notorious that he would soon single-handedly represent the entire data leaking community. His name, Pom Pom Purin.
The rise of
No
Palm.
one knew Connor was Palm, and he knew he had to keep it that way to not get caught. He first joined raid forums in 2020, just days after his 18th birthday, and he quickly took advantage of a detail in the leaks marketplace to gain notoriety. You see, it took credits to download data leaks that members had shared. There's two ways to get these credits. Number one,
oh, that's how they got their money.
you could purchase them for cryptocurrency, or number two, you could contribute, share your own leak, and then when members downloaded it, well, you would get those credits for yourself. And the thing about Palm is, dude was a data hoarder. He wanted to download all of this illegal data on the website to make a complete collection for himself, but to do that, he needed a buttload of credits. Thing is, Connor knew how to break into companies, steal their private data, and so by 2021, he was making news headlines for sharing the private information of 250 million Americans, including names, emails, phone numbers, addresses, on raid forums apparently stolen from a marketing company. Later that same year, Connor successfully stole personal data from 7
Oh yeah, Robinhood. The Robinhood link was massive.
million Robinhood users. You know that app that people on Wall Street Bets Reddit use?
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Well, he tricked Robinhood into giving him access to their back-end internal company tools and extracted all the
Honest to God, this isn't even a hacker moment. This is just a skill issue moment. He's like, hey, can you like give me this access? And they're like, yeah, sure.
this information, and reading this post, he was trying to extort Robinhood into paying him money not to leak it. They didn't pay up, and here he was looking to do a private sale for a 5-figure price tag. But here's the thing, you can't do all this stuff without attracting some unwanted attention. On November 12th, 2021, thousands of US citizens received this disturbing email from an official FBI address warning that the deadly hacker Vinny Toria from the Dark Overlord group was about to commit a cyber attack against the US. Later that night, Brian Krebs, a well-known cybersecurity journalist, received an email from the same FBI address reading, quote, "Hi, it's Pom Pom Purin. Check the headers of this email. It's actually coming from FBI server. I'm contacting you today because we located a botnet being hosted on your forehead. Please take immediate action. Thanks."
No way.
Yeah, Palm hacked the FBI to troll these cybersecurity guys.
No way.
Actually, the next day, Brian talked to Palm about it. He explained that he found
The feds are malding.
vulnerability in the law enforcement portal called Leap. Basically, there was a form that you would submit and an automatic email confirmation would get sent out after you did that, but he found an error in the way that it was coded that let him edit the post data, effectively allowing him to change the recipient and the contents of that email. You know, Palm could have used this to issue fake subpoena requests, asking companies to send over his favorite thing, private data by fake court order, to post online. But instead, Palm chose to troll Brian Krebs and Vinny Toria. As a matter of fact, before sending those emails, Palm personally messaged Vinny with a single word: enjoy. See, Palm had a personal beef with Vinny. Vinny's a cybersecurity researcher, had done an investigation into this guy called Christopher Munier, alleged that he
They love Pom Pom,
was the
huh?
mastermind behind major hacking groups, including the Dark Overlords, Nastic Players, and Shiny Hunters. And Vinny saw that, well, Chris had a certain connection with the alias Palm. Palm made this post on raid forums sharing the database of a company called Act Mobile. And there's a bunch of different download links because, well, these companies would reach out to whoever was hosting the download of their private database and get it taken down. And so it was pretty common to post 4 or 5 different download links. One of them is on a domain called og.money. And Vinny had previously apparently found out that og.money belonged to Christopher. And so he makes this, well, logical jump. Maybe Palm, his real identity, is Christopher. Palm did not take kindly to this, as you can tell. Maybe it's because it was the only person that was at least publicly hunting for his true identity, but he wasn't going to leave that accusation without consequence. It got really dark, actually. Earlier in the year, Palm had hacked into the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to publish a blog framing Vinny as a predator who was wanted for kidnapping a 7-year-old boy. This retaliation campaign earned Connor and his alias Palm a lot of respect within hacking circles. Respect he would use when the inevitable happened, when raid forums got raided.
Oh my god.
In early 2022, anyone who visited raid forums found themselves mysteriously logged out. Upon attempting to log in, they would again get redirected to the login screen. people started speculating that something happened. Someone noticed the domain was now actually connecting to a different server. A few days later, all suspicion was cleared as the entire website got replaced with this notice.
Damn.
The FBI had somehow taken control of raid forums, set up a fake login page to collect usernames, passwords, and IP addresses of anyone who tried to log in.
Okay, that's kind of clever, actually.
Then news broke. The owner had been arrested in late January. 21-year-old Diogo Coelho had flown to the UK from Portugal to visit his aging mother who had fallen ill. This finally gave the Department of Justice the chance they had been waiting for. Upon landing, several police officers took him into custody at the request of the United States. In an ironic twist, this arrest and coordinated takeover meant the FBI now had access to the raid forums database, including all users' private messages, a goldmine for finding information on the true identities behind many of the forum's most notorious members. This was a big win. The United States, well, they had been after Diogo for years. Diogo was 14 when he founded raid forums, an age.
Honestly, that's just kind of like, what was I doing when I was 14? Yeah, I was drawing and posting stuff on DeviantArt. Yeah. That's crazy to me, man. Cranking it? You were cranking it.
Where OPSEC was not his first concern, to say the least. The FBI had no
Snail Princess typed, I was masturbating and playing Warcraft 2. Your name is Snail Princess.
known who he was for nearly forever, but they had to get him after his 18th birthday and in a country where they had a chance at extradition. As of March 2024, Diogo is still fighting for the UK government to block that extradition request to the US, where he currently faces up to 52 years in prison. Facilitating
crazy,
data
dude.
leaks, particularly of US companies, carries a significant risk. So after 7 years and over 500,000 registered members, Raid Forums was gone. I did an entire video on Raid Forums, actually, and I want to play the end of that video for you.
Anyway, Raid Forums are shut down, so now there's no more problems with exchanging data breaches. Except, that's just not how it works.
It only took 2 weeks for a prolific member, Pom Pom Purring, to recreate the website. They were sick of, quote, all the stupid people trying to take the empty spot Raid Forums once filled.
I'm not going to name what it is for the same reason I never named what Raid Forum was before. For all intents and purposes, looks identical to Raid Forums. Obviously the same software. It's even the same styled fav icon with an acronym for the name of the site. And everything's just moved to somewhere else.
The website's community has been transferred into the hands of someone who is seemingly much more sophisticated. Not just a 14-year-old that kind of inadvertently fell into the role of a cyber kingpin. Yeah, Connor, well, this might have been the only place where he was truly respected, and he was...
That's kind of scary. It's the same as like when the mafia has its like head cut off. Usually it starts scattering, but if you place a major honcho in charge, it just gets replaced again. That's really bad. Yeah, criminal underground logic. You need a head honcho.
willing to risk it all to bring it back.
Yeah.
I think this makes the perfect time to introduce Guardio, the sponsor of this video. So there was this website called WeLeakInfo. For a few dollars, you could search anyone's email and see their exposed passwords. Now, WeLeakInfo ultimately got shut down by the FBI, but they forgot to secure all the domain names associated with it. And Connor, well, or someone else, it's not clear by his post, registered that domain, found that it was used to sign up for the Stripe account to accept credit card payments on the site, and likewise, they were now leaking all those records, names, addresses, phone numbers of other hackers using that service, which is crazy because, I mean, these are people in Palm's community. Anyways, I wanted to mention this in specific because even though it got shut down, there's so many other services like it, and the trouble is they make the barrier of entry of abusing leaked data non-existent. This is where Guardio comes in. Among many great features, they monitor your information. We'll give you real-time alerts if it's been leaked anywheres on the dark web. Passwords, credit cards, addresses. This way you can take immediate action to be ahead of the scammers. So Guardio will help you with this stuff that you can't really control, but there's also the other side of it where it's like people are constantly trying to infect you online to steal your private data. So another thing that commonly got posted on raid forums was something called Stealer Logs. Here's a post of a guy trying to sell 230,000 of these. So this is malware like Redline Stealer. If you accidentally download it, it'll take all your saved passwords and credit cards on Chrome. It'll steal your crypto wallets, VPN connection details,
Oh my
work,
God.
like specific files, all these crazy options. And this usually comes in the form of an email. And stealers will even take your session tokens from your browser, which allows a hacker to log into your account and completely bypass two-factor authentication. That's why they're so
That's terrifying, actually.
popular. The great news is that Guardio is super good at blocking these types of scams and malware from ever getting on your system. Their email monitoring would have prevented me from ever seeing that phishing attack to begin with. And if it slipped through, their extension protection would have identified and neutralized it before it could do any harm. Guardio detects threats before they even reach your browser, unlike traditional solutions that only address threats after they've infiltrated your device. That's why it's used by over 1.5 million people. I think my favorite thing is you can protect up to 5 of your family members under one account. So if
what
you
a
want to safeguard against
steal!
these cyber delinquents, go to my link, guard.io/crumb. You'll get a free
Mark, give me the 20 gifted! Guys, the ads aren't gonna go away if you give 20 subs. Thank you so much.
security scan, which will show you which threats you already have on your device.
I'm a
And
threat
you'll also
to
get 20% off your
society.
monthly subscription, which immediately eliminates your current threats and will save you from new ones. That's an amazing deal by an amazing brand. Thank you, Guardio. With raid forms seized, many reboots started to crop up. Look, there was the potential to make a lot of money running the forum, but these all ultimately flopped. According to Connor, people began asking him to recreate the forum, having been such a notable member. And how could he say no to that? So on March 5th, 2022, Breach Forums goes live. Most importantly,
Damn.
Bomb had something all the other reboots lacked. He had a backup of most of the databases that were previously up on raid forums, and so he was able to immediately list them for download, of course for credits. Coupled with him being damn brazen, like he started replying to law enforcement
Oh my god. Underneath the Fed Twitter.
takedown announcements on Twitter, advertising his reboot and offering old members their paid ranks back free of charge. He did a really good job at winning over the community, and likewise, they flocked back in droves. Connor was now also making a lot of money, hand over fist from the credit system. I can't stress this enough. He was also more technical than Diogo. The forum was truly running smoother than ever, and I think the criminals on there felt safer than ever. Him constantly playing the bad guy publicly like this gave users confidence that, well, law enforcement wasn't going to get their hands on it this time. He also assumed the role of, well, the website's lead middleman, something Diogo had been doing. See, when someone was selling a data leak to a private buyer, or anything else that someone would want to sell on the website, really, you can't really trust the buyer to send the money once you send them, you know, this stuff that you worked hard to hack.
Oh yeah, D2JSP is a really good system for that.
It's a forum full of criminals, after all. So
Yeah.
Connor would act as, well, a trusted third party. He would hold the money, verify that the data was real. If all looked good, he would facilitate the exchange. He offered the
It's essentially just like holding the money and then like giving it to them. Yeah, it's really smart. A lot of people do that.
service completely for free. Just asked for tips and donations. You can see here, this post was last edited November 2022, and that was to update the note at the bottom stating that he's middlemaned a total of 430,000 US dollars. This was 8 months into the forum's history. Fun side note, the FBI actually purchased multiple databases from Diogo on raid forums, using him as a middleman to further bolster their case against him. A risk that, well, Connor was surely facing now too.
I'm not a criminal mastermind. D2JSP is a trading forum for games. I just traded.
Needless to say, this professionalism was the reason the website thrived. Breach forums looked like a huge
Promise.
FU to the FBI. They had shut down raid forums because, well, sensitive information was being leaked there. And now, the leaks were back and stronger than ever. But some of these leaks were now threatening the national security of the United States, and so Pump faced a very tall order to not get caught. You know, the thing about data leaks is that they get a lot of news attention. If you watch my video on Arion Kurtosh, he was hacking companies alleging that he stole data just to make news headlines when...
Firework, what the frick? Wait, let me look. Wait, you hit the 10 and 10? Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it, man.
Towards the end of his run, he wasn't really taking anything. One leak in particular broke breach forms. On June 20th, a user joined under the handle China Dan posted this
China
message
Dan, what a
leaking the
name.
Shanghai National Police database. 23 terabytes of names, IDs, phone numbers, even criminal records belonging to 1 billion Chinese citizens were available for the small price of 10 bitcoins.
Uh-oh. That's not gonna make China very happy.
At the time, worth $200,000. Chinese social media went nuts. Hack became a trending hashtag. Likewise, a whole bunch of people from China began rushing to breach forums to find the leak. There was so many that the forum got completely overrun, and they had to post this welcome post written in Chinese.
A letter to our Chinese users. Oh, jeez.
Explaining the situation. Now, this was short-lived because, of course, it attracted the attention of the Chinese government, who quickly banned the website from being visited within China. But this was just the beginning. I mean, the US doesn't care too much about Chinese databases getting leaked, right? All hell truly broke loose on—
No, that's not true. Every piece of data, no matter what country it's from, is valuable. All data is valuable.
December 10th, 2022, when a user under the name US DoD published this sales thread featuring a leaked database from InfraGard containing, well, the details of 80,000 members. InfraGard is a platform that connects critical infrastructure owners in the US directly with the FBI to provide them information and intelligence on, well, security risk and threats. Critical infrastructure owners is the key word there. People that own pipelines, financial institutions, telecommunication companies. You know, a year prior, Colonial Pipeline had faced a ransomware attack which led to states along the East Coast having widespread fuel shortages. And this
Yeah, I remember this. Holy.
leak, well, it could mean more incidents like that because key members at these companies had their information exposed here, putting them at risk for attacks like SIM swaps and phishing campaigns. Now, this member even went on to do an interview with Brian Krebs, presumably to attract more attention to his sale. He admitted to Brian that he was actually able to gain access to the platform by just faking his information as being a CEO of one of the leading financial companies in the US, and well, the FBI granted him access, and then he was able to find a bug in the API and write again another little script to get all of this information. He even told Brian that, well, Palm agreed to be the middleman for this deal. I think that's something that, well, might have given the FBI a little more motivation to put Palm behind bars. But just in case that wasn't enough, the final straw to break the camel's back would be the hack of DC Health. On March 6, 2023,
Oh, you do not fuck with the medical, man. Ask me how I know. Don't fuck with those guys.
the user Intel Broker posted a database to the marketplace. 60,000 names, email addresses, birth dates, home addresses, social security numbers, and insurance policies stolen from DC HealthLink, an insurance company that served the nation's lawmakers and Washington residents. Among those in the breach were at least 21 current members of Congress, more than
Really
1,800
bad.
people somehow connected to Congress.
All anime girl profile pictures, chat. You never know who you're talking to. They could be a hacker.
And hundreds
I'm
of
a
people linked to
hacker.
20 different foreign embassies. But shortly after the post goes up, it mysteriously gets taken down. 3 days
Oh.
later, on March 9th, another user with the name Denver, whose signature reads "Glory to Russia," is posting it with 200 records provided for free as a sample. Then, on March 12th, Denver just shares a link to the full dataset for free. What the heck is going on here?
free?
News
Why?
later broke that the FBI had purchased the database from Intel Broker on the 8th. This is something the FBI has been known to do. When leaks get sold, it's often meant to be a private sale to one buyer only. So in the case of sensitive data like this, the FBI has been known to purchase it in hopes that it won't get into the hands of threat actors. But this time, it seems they knew the FBI was the buyer, and this was meant to be a huge middle finger to them. A middle finger that wasn't going to be taken lightly. It was time for them to put an end to this once and for all.
Huh.
How do you find a sophisticated hacker who appears to have taken significant steps to hide their real identity to the point of being confident enough to hack and troll the FBI? Turns out, Connor's persona was more of a roleplay than reality.
Really? Really, привет! Спасибо за рейд. Thank you. Мы смотрим видос про хакеров. Привет, thank you. Brili is my really, really good friend. Putin, thank you. Yeah, it's это видос про хакеров там в Америке. Не знаю. Немного интересно. Ты говоришь по-русски? Нет. По-чучувски. Да. Спасибо большое, спасибо.
So, you know how the FBI got Raidform's entire database with the arrest of Diogo? Well, the first thing they did was look at the private messages sent by Palm, hoping for any clues. And one such interaction caught the FBI's attention the most. In 2020, still new to the form, Palm messaged Diogo with a complaint. He had purchased a stolen database from a company called AI.type, a company he had apparently registered with before the hack took place. Likewise, he searched for his email, expecting it to be there, but to his surprise, it wasn't. Therefore, he thought that this database only had partial data, yet it was being advertised as a full leak. Palm was a stickler about this sort of thing, wanted Diogo to change the listing. Diogo wrote back, quote, "What email did you look up and how?" Palm replied that he didn't want to, quote, share his actual email for obvious reasons, but described connorfitzpatrick02@gmail.com as an email that seems to have the same case. The FBI couldn't believe it. Did Palm seriously just share his real name? They quickly subpoenaed Google to reveal more.
What? This guy is stupid as hell!
Information. Records came back revealing that the account was registered under a Verizon IP address to a customer with the same last name. Connor's dad was paying the internet bill. Then they searched that Verizon IP address in the Raidforms logs for login attempts and found that Palm had logged into his account many times without using a VPN. Worse,
I mean, VPN aside, why would you ever reveal your real name when you're such a wanted hacker?
they found that the IP address was used to register a Zoom account under the email pompompern@riseup.net, which was the address originally used to sign up for the Raidforms account. They had no doubt that the prolific hacker hiding behind a cute Hello Kitty avatar was indeed Connor Brian Fitzpatrick from Peekskill, New York, born in 2002. And knowing his name and address, they began conducting physical operations. See, by the time Breachforms was created, Connor had smartened up. He was using VPNs all the time. So in October 2022 and February 2023, unbeknownst to Connor, FBI agents were sat outside his house, monitoring his Breachforms profile to confirm that he was indeed logged in, because there was a little active flag on the profile, while simultaneously looking through his windows to make sure he was sat in his computer chair. They had their man.
Wait,
and now it would only be a matter of time before—
Imagine you see a Fed sniping you from on a roof next door and watching you carefully. Is he logged in as an account? Is he on his computer?
The agents got the order to actually knock on his door instead of just sitting outside it. But I think that moment would come a little quicker than usual. If you've watched my other videos, you know that the feds normally take, well, sometimes years to collect evidence, build their case to ensure a strong conviction. But with the scale of the recent hacks, the pressure was on to act fast. Breachforms had just celebrated its first birthday, and Palm's profile noted that he was currently online. This was the cue law enforcement had been waiting for, to send a fake USPS mailman to the door, asking Connor to sign for a package that he never ordered. They wanted to make sure that Connor
Chat, never go outside, never answer packages, let him leave it at the door.
Didn't have the opportunity to destroy any evidence, so this would be an ideal arrest, if not for Connor's butt crack. A little later, a news truck captured this footage of the FBI taking evidence out of the home. Most importantly, they had secured Connor's Dell laptop along with a 4 terabyte SSD. But the news—
This guy's an infamous hacker and he's using a Dell?
Didn't know yet who was arrested or even why. Meanwhile, on Breachforms, people began to notice that their favorite owner hadn't been online for over a day. Suspicions were high. Then finally, the first news article breaks, and the lead admin, guy called Baphomet, makes this post confirming that Palm has been arrested. This was kind of a post reassuring members. He says that after not hearing from Palm for over 24 hours, he removed his access to critical infrastructure, and he's since been monitoring the website logs to make sure that law enforcement doesn't have access to the back end. Then he made this post saying that he's going to migrate the server infrastructure over to, well, essentially a new host to make it safer. But it was too late for that. See, a few days later, the affidavit got released. And, well, it confirms that Connor immediately cooperated with the FBI after the arrest. He admitted to investigators that he was indeed pom-pom-purring, that he created Breachforms when people asked him to, that he was doing his middleman service on there, and that, well, he committed all those hacks against the FBI. He also revealed that he was making around $1,000 a day from people purchasing credits. And likewise,
$1,000 a day. Holy.
With this news, Baphomet was assuming the worst, and so on March 21st, he
That's
announced that
insane.
he was shutting down the forum. Quote, "I believe we can assume nothing is safe anymore." Now, despite this, he goes on to end the post by giving hope that, well, it might not actually be the end after all, and that maybe a new forum is in store. While all of this was going down on Breached, Connor's parents had made a $300,000 bond to secure his release, on the condition that he surrender his passport, submit to ongoing police surveillance, and, most importantly, stay off the internet. The sentencing hearing was set 8
No
months
more
out.
internet for you, chat. That's what I would do to you. Also, house arrest. No more leaving the house.
November 17, 2023 would determine his fate. This was good. It gave the feds time to finalize the details of the case and, more importantly, comb through Connor's devices for additional evidence. It seems he had something on there that he really didn't want them to find. Because come April, news broke that Connor was taken by ambulance from his house. His neighbors saw him unresponsive, wheeled out on a stretcher on oxygen. News officials later reported that Connor actually tried to, well, himself, but nobody knew why, and it would remain that way for nearly 3 months. At this point, the forum had been shut down for a little over 2, but that was about to change. On June 12th, it was back, now run by Shiny Hunters. They made this post, and Shiny Hunters, we haven't talked about them yet, but they were still are, one of the most active data thieves since the days of—
That's what's kind of scary about all these hacker groups and like mafia. Essentially, you cut off one head of the snake and it just pops up with another one. There's multiple people that are more than willing to take their place.
raid forms, even more prolific than Palm. Baphomet had made a deal with them to try and restore Breach to its former glory, and this was under the exact same domain name that Connor had originally registered for the forum. This was, well, looking like it was about to be another embarrassment on the entire case. Now, I don't know what trick the feds pulled out of their hat, but 11 days later, they managed to finally seize the domain name, replacing the entire website with this image featuring a sad handcuffed pom-pom purring. Wonder if they got the license rights from Hello Kitty to be able to do that. I don't think they need them. So there was a lot of suspense waiting for updates on what was going to happen to Connor. People were posting things like free Palm on Twitter. And come July, they got that update. The feds had found 26 videos and over 600 explicit images of children hidden on Connor's computer and SSD, with many of the files named by age. He wasn't producing
chop his balls off
them, but he was downloading them off of the dark web, maybe using some of the funds he had made from breach forums to be able to buy those. Can't really go into the details too much here on YouTube, but as news broke, suddenly all the people posting that stuff on Twitter got much quieter or even outright shifted their stance. Nobody was rooting for him anymore. The reason this went public in July is because, well, he signed a plea deal admitting that he was guilty to 3 charges. The first, operating breach; the second, selling stolen data; and the third, well, these images and videos. Not only had Connor now lost his legacy, but he was now essentially locked into losing his freedom. These charges alone could throw him behind bars for 30 years, but that would ultimately be up to a judge on November 17th. Until then, he was free to go home on a pre-trial release. This was under some new conditions, different than his bail. He wasn't allowed to be around minors unless accompanied by an adult who was familiar with his charges. And they actually lifted the internet ban. He was allowed back online so long as he had monitoring software installed on his computer. This was a really interesting choice. And I guess—
why would you do that? He's just gonna break it somehow. You really trust this motherfucker not to break it?
It's good for Connor because his sentencing hearing actually ended up being pushed back until January 19th, 2024 at the request of his lawyer. He was to do some different mental evaluations ahead of the trial to make sure he was of sane mind to actually stand trial, but I guess there was some delays in that process. And so that was the reason that the judge granted the extension. What's crazy about it is that 2.5 weeks before he was meant to actually go in front of the judge, the FBI was again raiding his house. The reason? He was caught using a VPN to access the internet without said monitoring software.
Let's go!
Likewise, he was detained, taken into custody. And this wasn't a good look for when he finally had to stand in front of the judge. Heading into the big day, I can only imagine what Connor felt. Prosecutors were asking for 15 years in prison. Remember, it could have been 30, but he had entered into that plea agreement, and so I think they were pretty confident that they were going to win, but guess the judge had other plans for Connor. Taking his mental health report into consideration, 79-year-old Judge Leona Brinkema sentenced Connor to 20 years of supervised release. You heard that right. He got supervised release. The specific conditions are that, well, he has to spend the first 2 years on house arrest with a GPS.
The guy had CP on his computer. No offense, but I feel like if you're a judge and you're like 40 or 50 years older than like the person you're persecuting, I think you should be able to understand the case way more. Like, there's no way a 79-year-old understands what they did. Yeah. Not even jail.
Ankle monitor, and he wouldn't be allowed on the internet at all for the first year. But after that, any computer just has to be installed with special monitoring software, subject to unannounced checks. He also had to forfeit $600.
Bro, did he like, did he bribe him or something? What the hell? What?
$98,000, which he had made from all this stuff that he had been up to. The feds had seized this from an Exodus and Coinbase wallet. It's crazy. I doubt his parents knew that he had this much money. Connor was also ordered to pay restitution for the losses incurred by the victims, but a specific amount is still to be decided. It's tricky business determining this sort of thing. Gotta get those companies to file complaints first, which will likely take many, many years, but...
Bro, he had, how much, 600 or 6,000 files labeled and foldered appropriately, and you didn't give him even like a modicum? 620 videos. Yeah, that's actually disgusting. That makes me want to vomit in my mouth.
He could be on the hook, seriously, for millions of dollars. Oh, and they put him up on the sex offender list.
Oh,
he's not
no.
allowed around zoos, playgrounds, that sort of stuff. The US government wasn't happy with this outcome though. They wanted to make an example of Connor, and like, this wasn't it. Dude had already violated his pre-trial release, and like, now he was allowed out under basically those same exact conditions. He gets to live essentially a free life after those 2 years of
And he had CP on his computer!
house arrest. He can drive, work, use the internet, and so the US has since filed an appeal.
He gets the right to live?
To this decision with the higher courts, hoping to get actual time behind bars, but it's going to take a long time before they get that day in court.
Bruh.
While Connor has spent the last many months sitting in his bedroom, Breachforms has been thriving without his presence. Despite having seized the domain in June 2023, like a phoenix, it again arose from the ashes under a new domain name, still being run by the Shiny Hunters. All the old members were back, posting new leaks crazier than ever. Till May 13th, 2024, when a user named Intel Broker sold data stolen from Europol. Just 2 days later, the phone was again seized by the FBI, this time with a picture of Shiny Hunters and Baphomet behind bars. Shiny Hunters, in the heat of the moment, quickly switched their Telegram channel to private and then delivered some devastating news. Baphomet has been arrested, and the FBI has got their hands on all the website's server infrastructure. Well, there's been no official confirmations of this arrest. Sounds like it could be true. We do know that Baphomet had access to all the website stuff from Palm, while Shiny Hunters was just doing the admin stuff. But this also doesn't make a lot of sense because 2 weeks later, the website was back up under the same domain, with Shiny Hunters
I think it's just a honeypot at this point, huh?
running it. How'd they get the domain name back? How did they get the website back up so quickly? And then Shiny Hunters Telegram mysteriously gets deleted. Come June 12th, 2024, they made this post giving an explanation for the Telegram channel. And then they go on to write that they're starting to lack motivation. 2 days later, they make another post announcing who the new forum owner is going to be, that they're stepping back, saying, quote, "It's hard to maintain motivation when you're constantly getting accused of being a honeypot."
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, since this weird string of events, people are speculating that even though the website is back up, it's actually now being run by the FBI. That instead of trying to keep it shut down, they're just gonna keep it up for a while, gather more data, get more people arrested. But I suppose for now, only time will tell.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's invaluable, and people are stupid enough. That was interesting, except that pissed me the fuck off that they only gave him, what, 20 years? But, like you get to live your life normally? Like, you're such a Man, they didn't even chop his balls off. That's crazy. Horrendous. I don't think it's that deep chat. I genuinely think that it's probably just some dipshit old ass fossil boomer ass judge that didn't understand what was going on. And they're just a dipshit.